Hello, all, greetings. This is Gilles Mansillon. I wanted to come to you today to send greetings and blessings. I hope you're having a nice day. I thought I'd come today to discuss a little bit the art, astrology, and mythology. In the sense, I'm not going to discuss art series today, but I'm going to use one of my paintings to share stories about astronomy and mythology. For those are things I use in my work, and for, of course, those who do not believe in astrology, I'm not trying to convert them. It's just the understanding of that essence is that in astronomy we look in the third dimension as physical object, but in astrology we look in the hyperspace of the fourth dimension, and we attribute personalities and energies to all those celestial bodies. As they interact with each other, it creates a different influence on the human psyche. And so I'm going to do it in two parts because it's kind of long. In essence, this painting is my astrological chart. That means it is all where the planet were when the day I was born. The minute I was born, those planets were there. I could have located about 100 planets. And so I'm going to discuss it from Pisces, because being Pisces, I'm going to start with that first house, Pisces, the planets that are in Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, and Leo, and I'll do a second part to complete that series. Also, the painting may not be completely finished, so the constellations are separated by some blue DNA strand, but it may not be the final version. However, it is good enough for me to begin to share share this information and use that painting as a model, so to speak. So the painting is divided in 12 sections. So those 12 sections could be related in mythology, as we all have to do 12 deeds, the 12 deeds of Heracles in Greek, and so. So we are all connected to all the constellations. The sun travels through all the constellations throughout the year and then return to our birthday. And so I'm going to start with the first constellation here in Pisces. I have Mercury, Sol, Mars, Orpheus, Chiron, Ibris, Urania, and Pandora, Cassandra and Metis as well. So essentially, the most important part of our chart is our sun. It is our sun. It is where we are. It is who we are. It is how we will see the life through this vision of I will always see. The essence of this incarnation for me is a Pisces, and so in all the time, Helios, the sun, Helios in Greek, Sol in Latin, was kind of secondary to Zeus, but in modern days, Sol is the most powerful actor in the sky, and so it is the guardian of the collective soul, and so it is represented here with Mercury. Mercury is always one sign inside the same constellation as the Sun, or one sign above, one sign below. It is always very close. Mercury used to be is named Hermes in Greek mythology. Was the messenger of Zeus, a very faithful messenger, and now he's become the messenger of the sun. He's here to interpret to the human mind the energies of the sun. After that, I'm going to discuss the 4 archetypes that are part of that constellation. The first one is Mars. His name is Eros. He was one of the Greek god, the god of war, but he was war for war. He wasn't really intelligent war. He was just Mars was kind of a brutal and violent kind of person, but now he seems to have gained himself as a counterpart of Venus, which we will discuss in the next constellation, Venus, which is Aphrodite. Originally, there was a legend that says that there used to be a planet named Vulcan that used to orbit between Mercury and Venus. And Vulcan is none other than Hephaestus, the god of the forge, which was the husband of Aphrodite. But then Aphrodite used to have a lot of affairs with Ares, and so Hephaestus was always trying to cut them in the act, but all the other gods were just laughing at him, in essence. And at some point, he got kicked out of the Mount Olympe by Zeus, and so the planet disappeared. And so now it has been relegated to become Vulcan, the planet Vulcanus, was a trans-Neptunian object. After that, we have Orpheus. Orpheus was the greatest musician in Greece, and so his music was essentially, there was two kinds of music in the antique Greece. There was the music of the lower realm, which was mainly like the flute of Pan, and then there is the lute, which was the music of the higher realm that could do harmonics and all kinds of other. Which was sort of a guitar with 8 strings. So Orpheus was. Basically, he was one of the stories was that he was able to hypnotize Cerber, the dog that was keeping the hell, in order to try to save Herodes. And so he went there and presented his case before Hades and Persephone, which was the lord of the underworld. And so this is Orpheus, and then Chiron. Chiron is the most powerful planet in my own personal chart, because it is a very powerful energy. For those planets have a history and energy beyond those stories of the Greek mythology, but they are still somewhat intricately connected to those energies. So it is just some stories. So Chiron was the centaur that was immortal. He had all the knowledge, and so but he became wounded by Heracles, because he was trying to help him in the Centaurian wars, and so he couldn't die because he was immortal, but his wound would continually plague him, and so it is the one that allows us to see our wounds in order to heal them. In a sense, in astrology, as well as many other things. Then come Ibris, which is here. Ibris is all those things that are beyond that which we need. This is all the exuberance, all the things that we do not need, that create karma, that create problem. For in Greek, there is essentially the Temple of Death was there is two great motto: is know yourself and nothing more. Once you know yourself, you don't want to go beyond yourself and lose yourself in these exuberant energies. After that, there is Urania, which is here in Pisces as well. She's the muse of astronomy. Then I have Pandora, who is here. Pandora was the first woman. Let's say that she was a beautiful woman. Pandora means loved by all the gods. She who has been given everything, and so she was the first woman, because before Pandora was created, they were only men. There were no women, and they used live and die. They never had to work. They never thought so much, but there wasn't really. That's what is known as the golden age of Greece, and then eventually, as a punishment, Zeus asked Epiméthée and Prométhée and Epiméthée to create the world of humans. And so Epiméthée was he who acted before thinking, and Prométhée who thinks before doing. So Epiméthée would often do things that was before thinking, and then Prométhée usually had to fix up whatever Epiméthée didn't do right. And so in essence, but they were the great benefactor of mankind. They were the creator of mankind and the defender of mankind. They do not have a single planet dedicated to them. In any event, when Pandora was sent down to Earth, she was very beautiful. But she was a woman that could never be satisfied by men. Men would have to work and work and work to satisfy her, and she would never be satisfied. She was in the Ibris type of energy. And also, she was warned by Prométhée not to accept any gift from Zeus, because but Epiméthée, his brother, took that gift from Zeus for her, and then he kind of gave her. There was some kind of a jar known as the Pandora's box, and within that the gods have put all the horrors, all kinds of horrible things. But she was told not to open the box, but she was curious and she opened it, and then death, famine, illness, envy, jealousy, all those things all those things came into the world of men, except for Hope, that she closed it when she saw that all those things came out. She tried to keep some of them in there, but only Hope remained, and it was, I think, Prometheus who put the Hope there. But Hope wasn't really something very pleasant for the Greek. For when you were in Hope, that means you were not in the enjoyment of the present moment. And in many sense, hope is also something we keep within ourselves. So this is a little bit Pandora, and then she get married to Epimetheus. Then Cassandra was a queen, as far as I know. She was a queen in Greece, and she attracted the attention of Apollon. In astrology, she's the planet that says no. When Cassandra says no, you want to follow what she says. The thing is, Apollo, to seduce her, gave her the gift of being able to see the future, to know the event before they happens. But then when it came to consume their union, she refused to mate with him, and so he couldn't retrieve the gift that he had given her, and so he told her, well, you will always be able to see the future, but no one will ever believe you. Which kind of, that's what happened when she was in Troy. She said, do not bring this horse into the city, but nobody listened to her, and the city fell. So, because there's a lot of those stories they all started with Homer, which with l'Iliad, which is the last 10 days of the War of Troy, and then there's the Odyssey of Odysseus, Ulysses, that was returning to attack to his home. Then comes Metis. Metis is intelligent and cunning as well. So the story of Metis is she's a beautiful energy. I'm working with her as well. She's very enlightened kind of astrological influence. I'm gonna very briefly, just for those who have forgotten this story, go back to the beginning. At the beginning, in this cosmology, there was chaos. Chaos was like a Brahmanic god. He had no personality. It was just the chaos, the original chaos. Then came Gaia, Mother Gaia, the Gaia with all her inner world. But then she was alone, and so she created Uranus, the sky, and the sky came to fertilize her, but they were creating children inside of her over and over again. It was just a great deal of activity. Uranus was like constantly creating new children, but he would never let them out of Gaia. So eventually Gaia went down to see her children, and she said, well, anyone could help me get rid of Uranus, because I'm getting really annoyed with this husband I have created. And so the youngest of his children, named Kronos, came, and she gave her a serp, which is kind of a knife that is curved, and during the night, by surprise, Kronos castrated Uranus. And of course, Uranus had a shock, and the sky just went up to the sky. And that is what Kronos, the time, separated heaven and earth. But Kronos, after that, there was all kinds of negative models, also negative archetypes that was created by Uranus and Gaia. So Kronos put into the Tartar, into the hell, all of the other children that he didn't like so much. He was afraid to be dethroned by one of his children, just the way Uranus was dethroned by Kronos. So he took a wife that her name was Rhea. She was one of her sister, and they had many children. But anytime they had children, he would eat them up, because he was afraid that one of them would dethrone him and take over. So eventually, Rhea got really tired. And so she when Zeus was born, the last of his children, she replaced him by a stone inside the blanket of the child, and Kronos swallowed him without even thinking. And so Zeus was put inside a cavern, so he could mature and become an adult tranquilly, with the protection of Rhea and Gaia, and so. At some point, he realized that he had to take over. There was such a disorder, so much chaos, that he had to do something to. I'm not going to get too much into the story, but he really loved Metis. But he also knew that he had to free all his brothers and sisters from the belly of Kronos. And Metis had the ability to change her shape and transform herself. She was extremely cunning, but very, very intelligent. And he convinced her to go, and so she went to see Kronos, and she put him asleep and made him sick. And so he started rejecting all the children. And the first thing that rejected came out of his mouth was the stone that was supposed to be Zeus. A stone that is now supposedly at the temple of Delphi in Greece. Supposed to be the stone that Kronos rejected. And so they rejected all those, then all the gods came out of Kronos. But they were all very young; they didn't have time to mature. So Zeus, although he was the youngest, he was still the older in that sense. So then he wanted to marry. So he married Metis, and so. But he knew that one of the children could also dethrone him. There's been a recurrent theme in Greece, in the Greek mythology. And so he convinced Metis to change herself in many forms. And at the end, he said, well, can you transform yourself into a drop of water? And so she did, and he swallowed her. But what he didn't realize, by doing that, he gained all her wisdom, her knowledge, her ability, her intelligence, so to speak. And so, but what he didn't realize is that Metis was pregnant, and so he became violently sick with huge headaches. So he called on Hephaestus, who came from who's the goldsmith, the goldsmith, the worker. He came in with his big hammer and then gave a huge hit of a hammer, blew up his head, the head of Zeus. And from this blow came out Athena, the goddess of war, but the goddess of wisdom and active intelligence. And so that was how Athena came into being. After Metis, Zeus married Themis, which does not have a planet, but is fully represented in a constellation of Libra. She is justice, and then he delivered the Cyclops, which gave him the thunder, gave him all the powers that he needed in order to conquer the Mont Olympe, to conquer the world. So that is for Pisces. Then I have a lot of planets. In Aries, I have Venus, Isis, Eunomia, Ophelia, Eros, Minerva, Atropos, Sphinx, Jupiter, Enteramnia, Septian, Industria, Cupido, Sedna, Admetos, Chaos, and Eris. Our first, Venus. Venus is a magnificent planet with a very old civilization, but in essence, from a Greek, from an astrological standpoint, she's the goddess of love, and she's essentially, Venus means in Latin Aphrodite. Aphrodite was born from when Kronos castrated Uranus. A drop of his sperm fell down into ocean, which was a Titan. It's the only Titan ocean that didn't take part in the war between the Titans and the gods. And so she was born from the essence of Uranus and ocean. And so she became the great goddess Aphrodite, which was married to Hephaestus, but used to have many affairs with Mars, with Ares. Then below is the goddess Isis. We'll get to Eris. Isis is the only Egyptian goddess that has officially name and planet. It is a beautiful feminine archetype, very powerful. I'm working with her very often. Then we have Eunomia. Eunomia is the daughter of Themis, justice. Eunomia is divine order. And so it is the opposite of dysnomia, which is not on the painting, but it is a moon of Eris, the goddess of discord, which we'll talk about later. And so Eunomia is a beautiful planet of divine order. Then I have Ophelia here. Ophelia is a play of Shakespeare. There is really no other reference to Ophelia, so Shakespeare got his planet. Minerva is none other than Pallas Athena. Athena was always named Pallas Athena. We'll go back to that when I get to Sagittarius. Essentially, Athena is the most powerful of all goddesses. she's extremely brilliant and beautiful and intelligent, and she's got it all basically. Eros is one of the original Titan. Is also known as Cupido, which also has a planet. Here there is a planet named Cupido, and here Eros. Those are two different planets. Eros is it's a big planet in our solar system, and is the god of love. When we fell in love, it is Eros that is doing his work. And there was a funny anecdote. Is where Apollo used to make fun of him, to say he wasn't really a good. He wasn't really good with his bow and arrow, and one day Apollo was face to face with a woman that he completely fell in love with. But Eros played a trick on him, where he threw a golden arrow into the heart of Apollo, and a lead arrow into the heart of the woman. And so no matter what he did, he could never get to her. So that is Eros. Atropos is part of the Mores. Is the three goddess. They're Cloto, Lachesis, and Atropos. Atropos is the old woman that cuts the life, that cuts the string of life. They are the weavers. Cloto is the young woman that sew the tapestry of life. Lachesis is the middle-aged woman who points the string of life towards destiny, and Atropos cuts it at the end. So those are super gods. Even the gods couldn't escape their destiny. So I believe that they were the children of originally of Zeus and Hera, I think. And so then we have a planet named Industria. It looks a bit like Saturn. It is. I really don't have no clue about what this planet is called. Industria. It may be in salutation to the world of industry. Then we have Sphinx. Sphinx is not the Egyptian Sphinx. It is a negative archetype from the old days of Greece. Then we have Jupiter, the most powerful Jupiter. It's Zeus. I will return to him later. It's a whole solar system just by himself. Then we have Saturn. Saturn is kind of a dark archetype. It's not an archetype, but I feel is really dark, like a dark planet. Essentially, what happened to him is. I think he was the son of Helios, the sun, but he wanted to carry the light of the sun all over the place, and everything would burn, and he created so much chaos that Zeus had to intervene. Then I have Cupido retrograde, who's a trans-Neptunian object here, which is it's like some of those gods, those energies have been given two planets, two attribution in the sky with the Greek name and the Roman name, the Latin name. And then I have Sedna over there. Alors Sedna is she's a goddess of the ocean, but it's not from Greek mythology. She's the one who's been persecuted by men, and so she's the symbol of the respect that we owe to the ocean and to women. Admetos was a healer. He became the master of Apollon because Apollon made some mistake, and he was asked to serve as a humble servant. He was a mortal man, or maybe he was the son of Apollon. I'm not really sure, but he was very powerful medical. He was very, very powerful in medicine. He could even resurrect the dead. And then we have Chaos here. It's a trans-Neptunian planet. It's a small planet, but it's very, very primal in terms of Greek mythology. And then we have Eris, which has a moon named Dysnomia. Eris is the goddess of discord. It is she's the one that started the war of Troy. So to go back to that story, I'm going to just briefly go back to that story. Prométhée, which was a visionary person, told Zeus that if he had, or maybe someone else told him, but he knew that they were in love, him and his brother Poseidon were both in love with a beautiful
goddess of the sea named Tethys, but they knew that if they had a child with Tethys, Zeus could be overthrown. So they decided to arrange her marriage with a mortal and make her mortal. She was the mother of Achille, I'm not sure in English. And so during this marriage, everybody was like preparing the celebration, but of course Eris, the goddess of discord, was not invited, but she showed up anyway. And so, but in a sense, we got to know that all of this was arranged because Mother Gaia, it all came down from Gaia, came to Zeus way before that to tell her the world is too populated. We would prefer to have a major war than to have famines. So you gotta set them on a war. It was another time, huh? So in a sense, because we do understand afterwards that it was all planned by Zeus, but so Eris came in and disturbed the wedding ceremony with a golden apple, and it was called the apple of discord. And she said, "Well, this apple will fall into the hands of the most beautiful woman here." Also Aphrodite, Hera, and Athena all came up and said, "I am the most beautiful woman." And so Zeus has to face a challenge. He couldn't really get into decide himself because that was extremely difficult given his relationship to all those women. And so he decided, well, he told Apollo, "You're going to take those goddesses to these mountains, and you're going to meet a humble man that will be there, and he will decide for us." So this person was actually a prince of Troy, which named Paris. His name was Paris, but he didn't know he's been made amnesiac by Zeus. So when Apollo comes with Hera, with Athena and Aphrodite, he didn't know who he was. And so Apollo comes to him and say, "Well, you got to decide who's the most beautiful woman on those three." And so Hera tells him, "Well, if you said I am the most beautiful woman, then I will make you the king of Troy, and you will be the sovereign ruler." Then Athena tells him, "Well, if you said that I am the most beautiful woman, I will give you the means by which to conquer every other kingdom on the world." And Aphrodite comes and says, "Well, if you say that I'm the most beautiful, I will put the most beautiful woman of the world in your bed." And so that's why they did chose, and so Aphrodite won the apple. Then what happened is the most beautiful woman in the world was Helen of Troy, which was married to Menelaus, I think, which was a king of a Greek king. And so he goes there and help with Aphrodite. He becomes so beautiful, and so he managed to seduce her and take her away from Menelaus, and they go back to Troy. And so afterwards, the whole all the kings of Greece they all had to come together to regain for as a matter of honor. They had they decided they were going to attack Troy. And so yeah, because the most of this story starts with Homer, which means blind. Is the oldest book is the Iliad, which is the story is very violent and brutal war. And then the second book, Odysseus, which is much more interesting, is his return into Ithaca, his land. The image of Ulysses or Odysseus, depending if you call him in Greek or Latin, is basically the return from chaos into order, because he was in a perfect situation with a loving wife, his son, in a marvelous kingdom with friends in abundance, and then he's sent into this awful war that's going to last 10 years, and then after that it's going to take him another 10 years to return home, to return to that order. But that's probably the most famous story of them all, so I'm not going to get too much into that. And so I'm going to continue with Gemini. So this was eventually Helen was forbidden by her husband because they knew that he was under the spell of Aphrodite, and so on that level the story ended up well, although that was extremely brutal if we listen to Homer. This planet Ornamenta is not a planet in astrology. It is just one of the most beautiful places. It is so pretty. I've visited, just like looking at it it's just so beautiful. It just shines and it is beautiful. If you have a chance, I recommend you take a look at it. Then Diane is Artemis, is the sister, the twin sister of Apollon. And then I'm going to have to accelerate a little bit, also it's going to be too long, but Proserpina is none other than Persephone. Persephone is one of the major story. Persephone, she has two planets, one with the Greek name, one with the Latin name. This one is with the Latin name, but Persephone was the daughter of Demeter, which is the goddess of harvest. She makes everything grows, and she loves her daughter. And one day there is Hades that comes from hell and capture her. And so Demeter got really upset, and so she decided to leave the Olymp, and then famine would start to ensue. Nothing would grow on the earth. And so Zeus had to intervene, and so but he couldn't bring her back from the Tartar, from the hell. And so because she had eaten some fruits down there, and once you do that, you can never leave the underworld. And so they struck a deal where Persephone would spend half of the year with a mother Demeter on the earth, and half of the year with Hades in the underworld. And that is why in the spring and summer everything grows, because Demeter's happy, her daughter's with her. But then when she has to return to the underworld with Hades, Demeter is really sad, and that's where winter comes. So Lachesis, I've already talked about it. She's one of the Moors. She's the one that point to destiny. Nemesis is a negative archetype from I'm not going to discuss too much the negative archetype. I don't think it's too interesting. But it is something to be integrated, not to fight against yourself, not to believe you have an opposite. Then Fortuna, she's the daughter of Ocean and Tethys. She's about destiny, about chance, and so she's a powerful planet. Tantalus is that's a sad story. Also, is the one that he has defied the gods, and he tried to lie to the gods, and so and in the most despicable way. And so he's been given he's always at the end because in Greek mythology the judgments are always fair. They don't seem to be, but there is a great deal of fairness in relationship to the decisions of the god. And so it is known as the insatiability, the inability to. He's always angry, always hungry. He always has to eat. He's always so he's never satisfied. Tantalus. Then Igea is the god of medicine. Ige with Epion, and so it's about. Hygiene also, it's about prevention as well, of how to prevent, to keep health. And Arachne is a marvelous story. Arachne was a beautiful woman. It's the planet of the spider. And so Arachne was a beautiful woman that was the most incredible weaver of all over Greece. And she was saying that even that our tapestry were better than the ones of the gods. And she was like always a bit arrogant on that level, and then one day Hera, that came to the eyes of Hera, and so Hera transformed himself into an old woman and went to visit her, and she saw Arachne very proud of herself and everything, and not only that, but her tapestry was not about the celebration of the gods of the Olymp. It was just about Zeus and his mistress, and Hera was the wife of Zeus, but he had many mistresses, and she didn't like that, so she got very upset, and she destroyed the whole studio of Arachne, and when she realized that she had betrayed Hera, which she loved. I mean, she was just doing that out of arrogance, childlike thing. She loved Hera. She would have never. If she knew that she was talking to Hera, she would have never said what she was saying. But she gets so depressed, she went to hang herself. So Hera was touched by that, and she said, "Well, if you want to hang by a string, you will." And she transformed her into a little spider. And she said, "But then your tapestry is so beautiful, you will always hang by the string, but you will be able to continue to weave your tapestry all around the world and forever." And so this is how Arachne became Arachne. And here we have Hades, which is a trans-Neptunian object, which is also known as Pluto. Here we have Circe. Circe was a magician. She was the one that turned turn all the friends of Ulysses into pigs. So she's like into potion, and she's like a witch. Eurydice here is Eurydice, the wife of Perseus. Requiem is not about astrology. Requiem is the word that was first used by Mozart, but in a sense it means rest. That's what it means, rest. Niobe also is a daughter of Tantalus. Then we have Kronos, we have Nessus here, which was a centaur that was killed by Hercules as well, for Hercules killed a lot of centaurs. Then we have Kronos, which is the father of Zeus, the husband of Rhea, or not just Zeus, but all of the generations of God. Pythia was the oracle of Delphi. And she's here for me in Cancer. She was killed by Hercules as well, but she's the oracle. I think she was the daughter of Themis. Here we have Vulcanus retrogrades. For me, and I have my North Node in Cancer, so it's a very powerful constellation. It's the direction of my life. And Vulcanus is, I always like Hephaestus. Hephaestus is the one that makes all the things that the god needs. Everything, as soon as they need something, they go to Hephaestus. But the story goes that he used to live on the Mont Olympe, although Hera didn't like, Zeus' wife didn't like him very much, so he was ugly, but he was one of the family, and so and one day he had the misfortune of listening into the conversation between Hera and Zeus, and the conversation was about whose orgasm is more intense and beautiful. Is it man's orgasm or woman's orgasm? Hera was saying that woman orgasm is more powerful, and then Zeus was saying the opposite. But then Hephaestus, Vulcanus, came and said, well, he took side of Hera. On that, he came and said, no, well, I would agree with Hera. And so Zeus got really, he didn't like that, and so he kicked him, and so he became crippled, and then he threw him out of the Mont Olympe. But yet he remained rather a good and faithful servant to all the needs of those stories. And so he has been relegated to a second to a very far away place. He hasn't been given, but he may return into the picture. Hecate is the goddess of the moon. Here I have in Leo. It's a moon goddess. There is also a constellation of Leo here. Mek is a little planet that is it's the god of the Easter Island. So it is a very pure energy that was guiding the Easter Island. Kwewar has a moon named Wawat. Et donc Kwewar, Kwewar was let me see, I took a note. Oh, it's an Armenian divinity. It is an Armenian divinity that is a creator. And then Ixion, as the last one. Ixion was a terrible story. This is the story. He actually made a lot of promises, but then didn't keep them, and so eventually Zeus wanted to forgive him. He invited him on Mont Olympe with Hera, but instead of following Zeus' advice or recommendation or order even, he went in trying to seduce Hera, which she didn't like that very much, and he didn't like that very much, and so he ended up in some incredible he went into the Tartar with an incredible punishment. However, Ixion is the father of all the centaurs. So I'm going to stop here. I will finish with the other 6 constellations because it is a bit long. I don't want to make it too long, which I prefer to make it in 2 parts. I'm going to pull a card for the day. Now, I hope this message was interesting for you. I know that mythology is maybe a little bit easier in Europe. We are maybe a little bit closer to all those stories because because of the language. French is a Latin language. But they're all great stories. They all have a deep conscious or unconscious effect on a lot of things that is going on, and they have played out all kinds of incredible archetypes. The card of the day is the living goddess. It's the ability to make the dream, the beauty,
the amazing real. It is so much is possible. It is just a matter of belief, and belief, faith, trust, and then everything happens. It is also a kind of balance. It is a kind of harmony, yet within the power to create anything that we want. So it is. There is a great deal of potential on this full moon today. I'm going to finish with just an overture of a great song. It's a song in Italian. It's about someone who's trying to solve one of the greatest mystery in human experience, which is and for a man to understand women's psychology, which is not always easy. It's called La Donna Immobile. La donna mobile, quam più mal vento, muta d'assento e di pensiero. Sempre un'amabile leggiadro viso, in pianto, in riso e messaggero. La donna mobile, quam più mal vento, muta d'assento e di pensier, e di pensier, e di pensier. Thank you very much. I wish you a wonderful day, and I'll see you for the second part. Namaste.